In this particular session, we will cover the design of IC engine component. On this particular slide, you can see the two animations. The one which is on the left hand side is the con construction of two-stroke engine. While the one which is represented on right side, that is the construction of four-stroke engine. In this both animations, you can see that there are common components or common elements of the entire mechanism. So there is one common element that is known as cylinder, inside which the combustion of fuels takes place. So one of the component of IC engine is the cylinder. Second part, which is sliding inside the cylinder, that is known as the piston. In same way, you can have the piston in case of four-stroke engine also. So second common component of IC engine is the piston, which is nothing but the sliding element. Third one, which connects the sliding element, that is piston, and the rotating element, that is known as crank. That element is known as the connecting rod. Here also you can see, in case of four-stroke engine, the connecting rod which connect the piston as well as crank. So third element you can say is the connecting rod. And fourth element, that is the crankshaft, on which crank is mounted. So the fourth element is the crankshaft. So these are the common components of IC engine. And in this particular session, we will see the design procedure of cylinder. This figure represents the schematic diagram of IC engine cylinder. There are different parts of IC engine cylinder, that is the cylinder head, the liner. So this portion is known as the liner of IC engine cylinder. Then there is a water jacket. Water jacket is nothing but the cooling mechanism which is required to dissipate the heat which is generated inside the cylinder due to combustion of air fuel mixture. So this figure represents the overall construction of IC engine cylinder. The main functions of IC engine cylinder are: the first one is the primary function is to retain the working fluid. Working fluid, that is nothing but the air fuel mixture such as air and petrol or air and diesel. So cylinder provides the space for the air fuel mixture inside the IC engine assembly. And the next second function of IC engine cylinder is to guide the piston. Okay. The cylinder provides the guiding surface to the sliding motion of the piston. As the combustion of fuel takes place inside the cylinder, very high temperatures are encountered. So it is necessary to provide cooling arrangement for the cylinder. So there are two types of cooling system. One is the air cooling system. The air cooling system preferred for small and single cylinder engine. So for air cooling system, fins over the outer surface of cylinder are provided. So in air cooling, the heat transfer through fins will occur, mainly used on scooters and motorcycles. Next is the water cooling. In small engines, the cylinder and frame is made of one-piece casting, while in case of large engine, a separate cylinder liner is used. Cylinder liner, water jacket and frame are manufactured separately, and then they are assembled. The construction of cylinder liner is illustrated in this particular figure. In this figure, you can see this this portion of this figure represent the cylinder liner, this inner surface of the cylinder, while this one is the water jacket which is attached with the cylinder liner. Right? So cylinder liners are more economical because they can be replaced after it being worn out. When you use the cylinder liner, it is not necessary to replace the complete assembly of cylinder, water jacket and frame. Instead of using better grade material for all parts of the cylinder assembly, when you use cylinder liner, the only cylinder liner is made of better grade wear resistant cast iron, because from the different components like cylinder liner, water jacket and frame, the cylinder liner is the one component which is in direct contact with the outer surface of the piston which is sliding inside the cylinder. So we need to have the better material for cylinder liner only. So that's the reason why the use of cylinder liner makes the overall cost of the IC engine cylinder is economical. Also, the use of cylinder liner allows for longitudinal expansion. Now, this figure represents the two different configuration of IC engine cylinder liner. One is the dry liner, while the another one is the wet liner. The dry liner is the one in which the cylinder liner does not have any direct contact with the cooling water in the jacket. Here you can see this portion represents the cylinder liner. The liner is not in direct contact with the water of the water jacket between the outside surface of the cylinder and water. Right? So this type of configuration is known as the dry liner. Next is the water liner. So you can see in this figure that the cylinder liner has its outer surface in direct contact with the water of the water jacket, right? While in dry liner there is a surface, intermediate surface between the outside surface of the liner and water inside the water jacket. While in case of water liner, the outside surface of the liner is in direct contact with the cooling water of the water jacket. Now the required material properties and materials for cylinders and cylinder liners. So required material properties are: the material of the cylinder or cylinder liner should be strong enough to withstand high gas pressure during the combustion of fuel. That is the one of the requirement of material property. Another required material property for the cylinder is the strong enough to withstand the thermal stresses due to heat transfer through the cylinder wall. Also, the required material should be hard enough to resist the wear due to the piston movement which is sliding inside the cylinder. So, should have the good surface finish to reduce the friction and wear during the piston movement. And next is the corrosion resistance. The material of the cylinder or cylinder liner should have the good corrosion resistance. Now we will look about the material. So cylinders and cylinder liners are usually made up of grey cast iron with homogeneous and close grain structure, that is centrifugally cast. For heavy duty cylinders, nickel cast iron and nickel chromium cast iron is used. In some cases, cast steel and aluminum alloys are used for cylinder. Now we will start the design procedure. In design procedure, the first we need to estimate is the bore and length of the cylinder. Bore is nothing but the internal diameter of the cylinder. Okay. So in engine terminology, bore means the inner diameter of the cylinder. The main dimensions of the cylinder are calculated using the equation of applied thermodynamics. So this equation is known, that is IP equal to BP divided by eta. Here eta is nothing but the mechanical efficiency. Okay. So where IP is the indicated power or power produced inside the cylinder, that is in watt. BP is the brake power or power developed at the crankshaft, that is in watt. Eta is the mechanical efficiency, that is in fraction, and that is generally taken as 0.8. So if in the example the mechanical efficiency is not given, you have to assume it eta as a 0.8. Here small n equal to capital N for two-stroke engine. Here capital N is nothing but the RPM of engine shaft, and N equal to N by 2 for four-stroke engine. Okay. Where small n is nothing but the number of working stroke per minute, while the capital N is nothing but the engine speed, that is in RPM. Now we know that the indicated power IP equal to PM LAN divided by 60. Okay, or in short form, to remember, you can remember this equation as a plan divided by 60, PLAN divided by 60, where PM is nothing but the indicated mean effective pressure, that is in Newton per mm square or megapascal. L is the length of stroke, that is in meter. That this you have to remember. Here the length of stroke in meter. A is the cross-sectional area of the cylinder in mm square, that is A equal to pi by 4 d square, where d is the bore diameter. Capital D is the diameter of cylinder or bore, that is in mm. Okay. The L by D ratio for the cylinder is usually assumed as 1.25 to 2. If in the example the L by D ratio is not given, then you have to assume L by D ratio equal to 1.5. That means L equal to 1.5 times D. Here L is the length of the stroke. Okay. So this you have to remember, that L by D you have to take it as a 1.5 if it is not given. The length of cylinder is more than the length of the stroke. There is a clearance on both sides of the stroke. So the total clearance is taken as 15% of the stroke length. So the total length of the cylinder, that is L, capital L, equal to 1.15 times small l, where L is the length of the cylinder in mm, while the small l is nothing but the stroke length. So the engine cylinder or cylinder liner is treated as a thin cylinder for estimation of the thickness of the cylinder. So the equation of thickness of cylinder wall is as per the equation of Hooke's stress for the thin cylinder. We know that the cylinder is subjected to two types of stresses, Hooke's stress and longitudinal stresses. The thickness of the cylinder or cylinder liner is considered based on the Hooke's stresses, and the modified equation of thin cylinder can be used to find out the thickness of the cylinder liner. And the thickness of cylinder, that is T equal to Pmax into D divided by 2 sigma C plus capital C. So where T equal to thickness of cylinder wall in mm, Pmax is the maximum gas pressure inside the cylinder, that is in Newton per mm square or megapascal. Capital D, that is nothing but the diameter of cylinder bore in mm. Sigma C is the permissible Hooke's stress for cylinder material, that is also in Newton per mm square or megapascal. Capital C is the reboring allowance, that is in mm. The value of C depends upon the bore diameter capital D. This means the diameter of bore, suppose it is 75, then value of C, that is the reboring allowance, you have to consider as 1.5 mm. If the diameter of bore equal to 100, then you have to consider the value of C as 2.4 mm. Same way for 500 mm bore diameter, 12.5 you have to consider as a reboring allowance. So ultimately we have the equation to find out the thickness of the cylinder, that is T equal to Pmax into D by 2 sigma C plus C. So here you have to make the certain knots, that is you have to assume Pmax equal to 10 times Pmin if it is not specified in the example. So this you have to remember, Pmax equal to 10 times Pmin, and sigma C, that is nothing but the Hooke's stress, that is equal to tensile stress, and that is nothing but ultimate tensile strength divided by factor of safety, since the cylinder is a brittle one. In example where ultimate tensile strength of cylinder material and factor of safety are not specified, then the allowable circumferential stress or Hooke's stress is taken between this range, that is sigma C should be taken between 35 to 100 megapascal. Okay. Now what is reboring allowance actually? So the reboring allowance C is taken from the table, that is the given data, which is required to compensate the uneven wear on the inner wall of the cylinder, and reboring allowance is the additional metal thickness over and above the required thickness to withstand the maximum gas pressure inside the cylinder. So because of that reason, in this particular equation you can see that this T is based on the Hooke's stress or circumferential stress plus C is added, means this C is added over and above the required thickness of the material based on the Hooke's stress calculation. Once the thickness T, bore diameter capital D, length of the cylinder, that is capital L, is known, you can have the empirical relationship to find out the different dimensions related to thickness of dry liner, thickness of water jacket wall, okay, in terms of the T, that is thickness of cylinder, as well as in terms of D, that is the bore diameter. Yes, so these are the empirical relationships based on the value, that is T, capital D and L, to find out or to estimate the different thickness, like thickness of cylinder flange, thickness of water jacket wall, right? We can estimate based on this empirical relationship. So in first part, as a design procedure, we have estimated the diameter of bore and the length of the cylinder. Then we have estimated the thickness of the cylinder wall. Now the stress is produced in the cylinder wall. So there are two principal stresses in engine cylinder. One is the circumferential hoop stress, that is denoted as a sigma c, and another one is the longitudinal stress, that is denoted as sigma L. Now one by one we will consider the hoop stress as well as longitudinal stress. So first we will consider the circumferential stress. So to estimate the stresses, we have to assume the stresses are uniformly distributed in wall thickness, considering the equilibrium of forces acting on the half of the portion of the cylinder per unit length. Okay, means here we have to consider half portion of the cylinder of unit length, okay, where the stresses are uniformly distributed over the thickness T. So let's start with the estimation of circumferential stress, that is sigma c, or a hoop stress. So consider this figure, that is the half section of the cylinder which is having thickness T, bore diameter capital D, and the inside pressure, gas pressure, that is the maximum gas pressure P max. So considering this figure, we know that D into P max. Okay, here if you consider the unit length, then D into L represents the projected area. Projected area on which the pressure is acting, means the applied force is D into L into P max, where dl is the projected area, and when we are considering the unit length of the cylinder for the design, means L equal to 1, then applied force is D into P max, that is resist by 2 sigma c into T. Okay, if you consider the cross section, then in this way you can consider the cross section on both the sides, right? So the total resisting area, that is nothing but thickness T into L, okay, into 2, means both area we have to consider. Okay, so here since L is taken as unity, means L equal to 1, so the total area per unit length is 2 times T into the sigma C is the resisting load per unit length. So if you compare this, we can obtain the relationship of sigma C, that is nothing but sigma C equal to P max into D divided by 2T. So this is the relationship of sigma C with the diameter D and thickness T. So hoop stress can be calculated using this formula, right? Now we will go for the longitudinal stress. So for that you have to consider this figure. Okay? This upper portion is nothing but the cylinder head, and this one is the liner. So considering the equilibrium of forces in longitudinal direction, you can see that the applied force due to maximum gas pressure in upward direction, okay, while the resisting force in the across the thickness of the cylinder, okay, is in downward direction. Okay. So the force equilibrium is written like this, that is P max into 5 by 4 D square. This is the applied force, okay, P max, which is acting over the circular area, that is having the diameter d. So total applied force is P max into pi by 4 times d square, and the resisting load, that is given as sigma L into pi by 4 do square minus d square. So here we know that the inside diameter of the cylinder is nothing but the diameter capital D. If you consider the thickness, then outside diameter is designated as DO. Okay. So total resisting area across the cross section is this one, that is equal to pi by 4 do square minus d square. This is the resisting area into sigma L. So total resisting force is sigma L into pi by 4 do square minus d square. So from this equilibrium of force we can obtain the sigma L, that is nothing but P max into d square divided by do square minus d square. So this is the relationship using which we can estimate the longitudinal stress. So here we have estimated the two apparent stresses, that is the circumferential stress or hoop stress, that is sigma C equal to P max into D divided by 2T, while the longitudinal stress sigma L equal to P max into D square divided by do square minus d square. So these two stresses are apparent stresses. One is the hoop stress while the another is the longitudinal stress. So the two principal stresses, circumferential stress sigma C and longitudinal stress sigma L, are tensile stresses and they act at right angle to each other. Okay. So one is acting in longitudinal direction while the other one which is acting in the lateral direction. So therefore net stress in these directions are given as, if you want to estimate the net hoop stress, that is sigma C net equal to sigma C minus mu times sigma L. Okay. And the net longitudinal stress, that is sigma L net equal to sigma L minus mu times sigma C, where sigma C is the apparent hoop stress and sigma L is the apparent longitudinal stress, and the mu, that is nothing but the Poisson's ratio. Now we will see the design procedure for the cylinder head, the next component of the IC engine cylinder. This figure shows the typical cylinder head of IC engine. Looking to this image, we can say that the IC engine cylinder head is the complicated component. See, these are the nothing but the fins. Okay, these are the internal threaded portion which is required to connect the cylinder head with the cylinder liner. Okay, there are valve opening as well as opening for the spark plug. So in most of the IC engine, a separate cylinder head or cylinder cover is provided, and the cylinder cover accommodates the inlet and exhaust valve, air and gas ports, spark plug in case of SI engine. So ultimately the shape of cylinder cover becomes complicated due to accommodation of above parts, means inlet and exhaust valve, air and gas ports, spark plug for the SI engine. So overall design of or the configuration of cylinder head is complicated. So in general, a box type section with considerable thickness is used for cylinder head. In preliminary design stage, the cylinder head is assumed as a flat circular plate and its thickness is calculated using this particular formula, that is Th equal to D under root K times P max divided by sigma C, where Th is the thickness of cylinder head, K is the constant that is equal to 0.162, and sigma c is the allowable circumferential stress. Next, we will design a studs for cylinder head. So there are three important parameters in design of studs. One is the number of studs, that is nothing but the Z. Second is the diameter of studs, and third is the pitch of studs. So first we will see how to select or how to estimate, how to decide the number of studs. So the number of studs Z should be between the following limit, that is minimum number of studs equal to 0.01 times D plus 4, where here D is the diameter of cylinder bore. Maximum number of studs are 0.02 times D plus 4. So the total number of studs between this limit. Okay. So we can say that here Z should be greater than 0.01 times D plus 4 and less than 0.02 times D plus 4. Next is the estimation of diameter of stud. So gas force acting on the cylinder cover, that is pi by 4 d square into P max, and that acting force would be resisted by the force which is offered by the studs, that is pi by 4 dc square. Okay, here dc is the core diameter of the stud, okay, into number of stud, that is Z, into sigma t. Okay. So if we compare this to, that is pi by 4 d square divided by 4 into P max, that is the applied force, equal to resisting force, that is Z into pi by 4 dc square into sigma t. Here dc is the core diameter of stud. Once the core diameter of stud is estimated, we can estimate the nominal diameter of stud, and nominal diameter of stud is given by this relationship, that is D is the nominal diameter, then D equal to DC divided by 0.8. This is the relationship you have to remember, where DC is the core diameter of stud, while the small d is the nominal diameter of the stud. What? The pitch of stud. First we will try to understand what is the pitch of stud. So for that, consider that this one is the outside diameter of cylinder head. Okay, consider the top view of cylinder head, then position of stud over here. So this plus sign represents the position of stud, then this distance is known as the pitch of stud. Okay, the distance at the pitch circle diameter of the position of stud, the distance between two studs represent the, means this distance represent the pitch of stud. So the pitch circle diameter of stud is obtained by following empirical relationship, that is dP is the pitch circle diameter equal to D, that is nothing but the diameter of bore, plus 3 times D, where small d is the nominal diameter of stud. So once we know the pitch circle diameter for the stud, then the pitch of stud can be obtained, that is pi into dP divided by Z, where Z is nothing but the number of stars. In order to obtain the leak-proof joint, the limit for pitch is given where the maximum pitch equal to 28.5 under root D and the minimum pitch equal to 19 under root D. Okay. So the pitch of the stud should be between these two limits, minimum limit and maximum limit. So this pitch of the stud should be between this limit. So in the end, if we summarize the design procedure of IC engine cylinder, then first we have to estimate the bore and length of the cylinder, that is capital D is the bore diameter and length of the capital L is the length of the cylinder. Then once the BP is known, then IP, that is indicated power, we can estimate using this relationship where eta is the mechanical efficiency, that is equal to 0.8. Once the IP is known, we can use this relationship, that is IP equal to plan divided by 60, that is P mean into L, that is nothing but the stroke length in meter. A is the pi by 4 D square into small n is the number of working stroke divided by 60. So from this relationship, substituting A equal to pi by 4 D square divided by 4, we can obtain D using the relationship, that is L equal to 1.5 times D. And the length of cylinder is nothing but 1.15 times small l. Okay. Here capital L is the length of the cylinder, small l is the length of stroke. Means here we are adding 15% of the length of stroke as a clearance. So that is the first part of the design procedure of IC engine cylinder. In the next part, we are estimating the thickness of cylinder wall. For that, the formula is T equal to Pmax into D divided by 2 sigma C plus C. Here C is nothing but the reboring allowance. Once the T is estimated, using the empirical relationship, we can obtain the thickness of the water jacket, okay, and we can obtain the thickness of the cylinder liner flange, right, using the empirical relationship. So after estimating the T, D and L, we can obtain or we can estimate the net hoof stress and net longitudinal stress acting on the cylinder, and this step, the estimation of stresses in the cylinder wall, you have to consider as a check. So the induced net stress, net hoof stress and net longitudinal stress should be less than the sigma C allowable for the particular material of cylinder. Okay. Next is the thickness of cylinder head, that is Th equal to D under root K into Pmax divided by sigma C. So here Th is the thickness of cylinder head, D is the diameter of bore, K is the constant, Pmax is the maximum gas pressure. If it is not given, then you have to consider it as a 10 times P mean. Sigma C is the hoof stress. Design of studs, there are 3 parameters. One is first you have to decide the number of studs. So the number of studs should be between this limit, that is 0.01 times D plus 4 to 0.02 times D plus 4. Once the Z is finalized, you can estimate the core diameter, that is DC of the stud. Once the DC is obtained, we can obtain the nominal diameter of stud that is required to specify the required size of the stud, and at the end we have to decide the pitch of stud, that is pi dp divided by z, where dp is the pitch circle diameter for the stud and z is the number of studs. For the leak-proof joint, the pitch of stud should be greater than 19 times root d and less than 28.5 times root d. So this is the total summary of design procedure of IC engine cylinder.